Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm Taylor, and today we're here with American's GPO Director, Maggie Leland.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going, Maggie?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So excited. Today we're going to talk a little bit about GPO, group purchasing organizations. I know for a lot of our sales associates, they know what GPO is already, but we have a lot of people who don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. Could you maybe explain a little bit about what GPO is?
Sure. So a GPO, like you said, is a group purchasing organization. And really what that is an organization that helps leverage the spending power of their members. So any company can join a GPO, and it doesn't usually cost them anything to join. And what those members usually are looking for is a cost savings of some sort, leveraging that spending power with all of the other collective members to get better pricing. So similar to how American will leverage our pricing with our vendors. That's what these companies are trying to do with the GPO. And so vendors like us, American, will work with the GPOs to get contracted and provide that cost savings to those members. So many times American reps will get a notification that says that a customer is a part of a GPO, and that's what a part of what those members are doing is they're signing up for the GPO to get access to those savings that we're contracted for. So they're kind of a middleman between the customer and the supplier to provide that savings to that member.
Cool. So you mentioned that they are going to get a notification. Is that coming from you?
That is not directly coming from me, but it is coming from American and coming from one of the people that work at American and scrub a daily list. So how that notification goes out essentially is when a new customer is entered into apps, that goes on the daily scrub list, and then we scrub that against the GPO member database, which we update every other week. So we're constantly adding these members to our database, and then when a new customer comes into American, we scrub that, and then those notifications go out to let the American rep know that their customer is a GPO. Sure. Now this can happen after the customer is entered into apps, or how we prefer it to happen is to have you as the reps come to the GPO services department and let us know, hey, we're prospecting with a specific customer, and then we can always at any time let you know if a customer is a part of a GPO, so that we can kind of arm you with the information that you need to go and sell on that GPO contract, rather than finding out after the fact, after you sold a program or priced out a program. We prefer to have you know up front so that you can approach the customer appropriately.
Sure. Do a lot of customers know that they're a GPO, or do you kind of have to feel around?
It kind of depends on the customer and who your contact is within the customer. So a lot of times the person that ends up signing up for the GPO is somebody possibly in the finance department, or somebody who has the bottom line in mind because of the cost savings that it provides to the member. So many times it may not be the person that you're speaking to. So that provides an opportunity for education for that person, kind of a leg up, you could say, that you could go in and say, hey, that you're a part of this GPO that we're contracted with. Gives you an opportunity to educate the customer and say, because of your membership and because of our contract, we can save you money. And that usually gets their ears perked a little bit, especially if you can approach that customer with that GPO knowledge before you've signed contracts and priced everything out for them. So that's definitely an opportunity. We also can work with our GPO contacts to get that person who has signed up for the GPO, if they are still a part of that organization, try and get them in the same room as the GPO or as the contact that you're working with at the facility, so we can kind of get all parties in the room and make sure that communication is open from the beginning.
Cool. So before, when you were kind of explaining what a GPO is, you mentioned that anyone can be a member of a GPO. Mm-hmm. Is there, some certain verticals that are more drawn to it? What are the restrictions around that?
Sure. So GPO started in healthcare, which is probably what most associate with GPO is. You automatically think healthcare, but that's very fastly changing and more rapidly going into different verticals like education and automotive, manufacturing, even insurance and banks are starting to join GPOs. Solely for the same reasons that healthcare facilities started joining them, is they all are realizing that they're buying the same items, so why not combine that purchasing power and work with suppliers that are contracted to save them some money. So you are very much so more often getting notifications and having to provide those cost savings to that customer that isn't in the healthcare facility, which provides a good opportunity for us to go and sell because they are new to the GPO. They're also much more excited about that cost savings, whereas in the healthcare facilities, they almost expect that savings because they've been a part of it for so long. These other industries aren't as used to that, and it's more new and exciting for them. So that provides a cool opportunity for us to go and position ourselves as somebody who can save them money and provide good service.
Very cool. So, but you would say that most of our sales associates dealing with GPO are right now in the healthcare?
Probably most, yes.
Most.
Yeah, but
Okay.
We're seeing more and more that come through that we wouldn't expect to be in a GPO but are now. So it's rapidly changing, but it still is probably more than 50% healthcare.
Oh, okay. Cool. So what would be some tips that you arm a sales rep with before they just walk in randomly to, let's say, that it is a healthcare facility, or maybe it's, a new market that you mentioned, like education or automotive? Do you have like a set of tips or advice that you would just give to our reps before they do that?
Sure. So what I typically recommend is reaching out to the GPO services team before you go in on that call or that meeting, so that we can let you know, one, which GPO they are a part of, since we're contracted with many, and then I give kind of a little education on the contract and what the pricing structure is and what the benefits are to that, and maybe some marketing collateral or different education pieces, so that the rep is very educated when they go in. We're more than happy to be a part of those calls as well. But, who the GPO is, what departments you may want to meet with depending on the vertical, because it'll vary between healthcare. You may want to meet with procurement or marketing or HR, whereas in the education vertical or the automotive, you're going to want to meet with specific departments within those as well. So making sure that they have that information and are getting in contact with the right people, and then just working on and educating on the benefits and the pricing structure, so that when they go in there, they can really sell that contract and sell American like they normally would, because the GPO contracts are just another tool in, I guess, the toolbox, you could say, that your customer is still looking for all of the same things that any of your non-GPO customers are looking for, such as service and product, and price is a part of that too, but that GPO contract is just another thing that you can go in and sell on, so something to add to your normal pitch.
Nice. I like that you hit on the fact that it's a selling opportunity, because sometimes GPO gets a bad rep, It's like sometimes people find out like, oh my gosh, I have a GPO customer. It might be something like you either haven't gotten into that territory yet, or you're concerned about splits. Can you hit on that a little bit? Because sometimes it's, it could really be a great selling opportunity when some people might not be looking at it like that.
Yeah, definitely. And we do deal with some of that, especially when that, when we talk about those notifications, when those notifications hit after the fact, when you've already done the pricing and so forth, that's when we kind of hit a little bit of a resistance, I guess you could say, or but even in those situations, there is an opportunity to go back in and say, because of this, and we may not have known it at the time of pricing, but now we know this, and you're a part of this, and is there any other business that we could be doing that could save you additional money? That's an opportunity that lies, even where it might be seen as a negative. I still think there's opportunity there, but that's why we recommend especially reaching out as soon as possible, even when you're just saying, hey, I'm looking at calling this customer, is it a GPO? And it does require the step on your and the rep's part to reach out, but I think the benefits that it provides are way greater with that extra step of action, saying, is this customer a GPO? What can we do to go and sell on that and provide hopefully more services on that contract than you might if you don't present it that way. So
sure,
definitely see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, and I guess it almost kind of locks American in too as the best option for that customer if we're, a partner with one of those GPO groups.
Right. Yep. And many on the healthcare side, they have to put say it's 80% of their spend on with contracted vendors. So some of those facilities, and not so much in the non-healthcare space, but especially in the healthcare space, because that's become such a norm, many of the healthcare facilities are having to provide X percent of their spend with on-contract suppliers. So that gives us a huge leg up because a lot of their spend has to go through those suppliers, so they have to pick and choose where they don't want to go on contract. So that really gives us a leg up against the competition as well.
Cool. So, I'm glad that you're jumping into healthcare because, as you mentioned, it's 50% of GPO accounts are in the healthcare area. And so what has changed in recent years with our healthcare vertical that maybe people should know? They're going to come in with the knowledge on how to sell a GPO, but then there's that other aspect of how do I sell successfully to the healthcare market?
Sure. So whether you're a print or a promotional products rep or both, there's really big opportunity in healthcare. And you've probably heard that print has been going down, and that may be true, but it's also changing. So whereas years ago they were doing forms and that kind of print, data entry, and all of the forms were printed out and given to each department, whereas now with all of the online medical records and checking in with instead of a form, you might be doing it on a mobile device or a tablet. All of that has kind of gone electronic, but that spend has also now shifted into different advertising spend, marketing spend, like brochures and collateral that you might see laying around a facility or an advertising print. So that's an opportunity where you kind of change your focus a little bit towards that spend, and there is still significant spend in that area. So that would be something if you more on the print side, that would be kind of where to focus, is more on that marketing print rather than like the forms that you may fill out. Now there's still spend in like rec forms and things that you might fill out at the lab, but it's just changing a little bit on that side. As far as promotional products goes, there's been a huge switch to go and do more promotional products, not even as much in like the trade show and giveaway types, but more on the patient side. So they'll send patients home with get well kits that'll have some branding materials and different things that might help them get better faster. Which in turn then increases those patient satisfaction scores, which is another thing that we've seen a big uptick in, is that those patient satisfaction items where now you really are focusing on patient retention and getting those patients to come back to your facility, because there are so many different places that patients can go for care. So it's how do we get those patients to stay here and come back, and promotional products have been a huge part of that, as well as the other patient satisfaction ideas like the care boards that you probably heard about, or the sound absorbing panels and things like that American can provide to these facilities to get those patients to come back. So that's probably the main focus in the promo products, is those products that are going to be able to get those customers back in the door and really even further help that bottom line of that facility. So if we can go in there and show them how it's going to impact their finances, then that really gets their attention, if it can directly impact the bottom line.
Nice. Why is patient satisfaction all of a sudden so important? We've kind of heard that in our industry for the last few years now. Why the big push, Maggie?
Yeah, good question. So a few years ago, there was some legislature that was put through on the patient satisfaction and the HCAHPS scores, which is directly tied back to patient surveys that are given out after care has been administered. So when the patient goes home, they have the opportunity to fill out a survey on that particular facility that they were serviced at. And those scores can directly impact the bottom line of that hospital, because those scores are evaluated, and then the government actually gives money back to facilities that have really high patient satisfaction scores, or HCAHPS scores. So when you can increase that patient satisfaction, you do better on the surveys, and then the government actually gives you money back for that. So if we can go in and provide ideas on how they can increase those scores, then if we can get in the door with the right audience, that that will really mean something to them. And those sound absorbing panels are one huge thing. Even any artwork on the walls, they can put sound absorbing panels into those, because the number one complaint of patients in a hospital room is the noise. It's all the beeping and all the walking back and forth and people talking and down the hall and so forth. So if we can reduce the noise in the hospital room, that's one thing that will really help. And then again, with communication and the patient care boards, that's one thing that also really helps the satisfaction of not only of the patient but of the family members and the people that are in the room with them as well. So
yeah, those boards are so cool. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, we have a lot of vendors actually who partner with us who provide some really cool options. Like it shows, like I'm just thinking of there's one where it shows the amount of pain that they're in, and then it shows, what medications they need to be taking so that, they can have that constant reminder, and then family members can actually see that too so that it doesn't have to, sometimes it's like that game telephone where the doctor tells the patient and then the patient has to tell their family and then, everything is lost. Right, yep. Right. Exactly. So those are pretty cool.
Yeah, we do have a few vendors that are very good at that, at those patient care boards. And we have a couple of reps that have been very successful in selling those. So we've got success stories, and if it's something that you're interested in getting into, we definitely have some resources available. But it really helps that communication between the family and the doctor and the nurse, so that the family doesn't come in and have to track down that nurse, and right. That's always hard to do as well. So if it can be communicated on this board, it's also it's a capital expense for the hospital, but if we also have some solutions where they can put it in, do the capital expense the one time, and then replace the skins on those boards instead of replacing the entire boards. But we also have vendors that do all of the installation and different things. So definitely an opportunity there, and it's not too high maintenance of a sell. So right. It's something that can keep giving you residual income.
Sure. And even knowing, just what you explained, I feel like that itself is its own little sales pitch. Like you could bring that in when you're talking to these employees in the procurement or marketing department, and
yes.
That way they can kind of choose what level of service they want from us too. And that's again, that's the nice thing about American, is that we have so many options with services and products and that kind of thing that you can kind of hit on any level of need. So
yes,
that's pretty
definitely.
Cool. Any other last minute tips on selling to hospitals that we maybe didn't cover?
Yeah. I guess one thing is really just get in wherever you can get in the healthcare facility, because they really have spend in so many different areas, and one of the pain points is for them is getting their arms around that spend. And some healthcare facilities will be pretty open about kind of trying to consolidate that, but others, especially in the marketing department, they like to kind of go out on their own and do their own thing. So if you can get in with procurement or marketing or HR, wherever you can kind of get that foot in the door, is beneficial. It was just even in a meeting yesterday with procurement for a healthcare facility, and we were talking to them about print and also presented American retail and promotional products and patient satisfaction. And one of their comments was, well, we're good on the print right now, but have you talked to our marketing department, because we see some huge benefits in some of these product categories for them. And they hadn't talked to the marketing department yet, but said, can you make that introduction for us? And they were happy to do that. So wherever you can kind of get in and present the offering and see, even if it's not a fit for the department that you're working with, many times they're able to point you in the right directions once you make that relationship. So don't be afraid of the healthcare industry. It's definitely something that's attainable, and you just kind of work through the process, and we're happy to help out with that as well.
Nice. I like it. And you guys have a lot of marketing materials too that you can provide that even if they just need like a flyer or
brochures,
right, anything like that.
Yep. And we also have microsites for all of our GPOs, and so plenty of resources available. And again, on those GPO contracts and those meetings that you have, feel free to pull the GPO services team in, because we know that that's something that might not be as familiar. So we're happy to help grow that business wherever we can.
Awesome. So if people need to contact you, just GPO services at americanbus.com. Otherwise, reach out directly to you or to Chelsea Horman if it's like a education opportunity. You guys have a great team that can really help in the field. So, well, thanks for taking the time to explain a little bit about this. It's been super helpful.
Again, any questions, feel free to reach out to GPO Services, and we'd love to help you grow the business.